I've done a little bit of everything. I always tell people what my story is. And, I went to college, and after that I built houses. I knew how to do that from my dad and my uncle. And then after a few years of working in the rain in Portland, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I went to law school. And then after law school got out, I'm like, well, I'm going to move to California, live in a big city and see what that's all about. And the moment that I walked through that door and met all those people and just kept being pushed forward, I realized I was really good at this. And, there's nothing like finding your niche. I think that's just a gift that unfortunately a lot of people don't get. So I was really happy to find that place. And I don't think it would have happened at a lot of other places. It's a combination of, the culture itself that you built there. I wanted to be part of that. And, I look back now, I'm like, I'm looking on, over 20 years in this business now. And I started there. So it was really, that was the best part of it. And that's how to finish that sentence was, I've put 20 years into a career I never guessed I would have had because of Enterprise Fish Company. We never had a month when I was a GM there for 2 years where all the management didn't hit their max bonus. I think there was 1 month. It was a February, I think, of 2006 that was a little slow. And we were just killing it. It was wonderful.
And you're right. The $1 million, I remember handing both Mike and Randy, each took home $1 million, and they 7 years prior to that, they were considering closing. So that was a pretty big feat, and congratulations.
I missed being an Enterprise. I loved it there. I loved the people there. And so I put my suit on and I went back in through the doors, and you were having a meeting up on a little elevated part up at tables 15 to 17, I believe they were.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I still remember those to this day. And Erin came down with a smile on her face. She was the general manager at the time. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I want to come back." And she goes, "When can you start?" And so I said, I'll start tomorrow. I said, "I don't have a job right now." So I had started the next day and went in, and she sat down with me and she said, "Can you manage the floor a couple nights a week and serve a couple nights a week?" I said, "Sure." So I ended up doing that for a couple of months, maybe 6 months, and moved into more and more roles, got upstairs in the offices a little bit. And then after Erin left, you approached me, and I was getting ready to take the bar exam again, I think about a month later. And you said, "We want you to be the general manager." And I said, I'm going to be a lawyer. And you told me all about it. I said, "What was it entail?" And you gave me all the stuff. You said, "I'll train you for, 3 months straight, sit down for 6 hours a day, all this stuff." And I said, "Well, I need time to think about this." And you said, and I still remember this, "You have 4 days." And I said, "Okay." And so I called up all my friends who were practicing law, and they said, "Do it. This sucks." And I said, "All right," because I love the hospitality industry. It suited me. I had 90 minutes to make people smile instead of years to see the worst of people. So I went from going to be a lawyer to running a major restaurant in Southern California. And if you would have told me that 5 years prior, I never would have put money on it. A little over 7, but the best part of it was that we brought 20% to the bottom line.
Yeah.
So we cleared over $1 million at that place, which is not an easy thing to do in California, especially. But yeah, we took it from being, it was a great place. The business model was wonderful. It was set up very well. And there was just a lot of places where, and I learned from you, to be honest, Jeremiah, how to push revenue. But I was also very good at keeping my costs in line. So while we were pushing our revenue up, we were also dropping our costs. So it did nothing but just cash checks, hand over fist. We were doing happy hours on Friday where we were selling $3,000 in beer in 2 hours. It was crazy. People who worked there were great. But we had, DJs and fire pits with dance parties going on the patio, 20 feet away from celebrities having cocktails in the bar, 20 feet away from a family of 8 having, their lobster dinners for their birthday party. And it all worked together, and it was always busy. And it was always fun. No matter what part of that demographic you were at, you were having the best time there. It just really worked on all levels. And that's something that I don't know if something like that's possible anymore. Because it was just so massive. It was a huge property. When you look at it now, that was
1,000 square feet.
Yeah, it was giant. And the kitchen was bigger than most restaurants now that you would go to. when I see, that was back when I was in my 30s, and I would never have the energy to do that. Sadly, Mike, the almighty dollar bank. I couldn't have given that guy a better last name. He was very good he was a brilliant mind. He was a finance guy through and through. I would never want him to be my bartender or my server, but my God, could that guy crunch numbers in his head. Yeah. He was very, very much a thinker. He would never come to a decision without getting every single aspect or option in his mind first. And he taught me to go to your bus boys to find out what's wrong. Don't go to your managers. Your bussers are the ones who know what's going on in that restaurant. But he was an interesting character. And I think that when you look at the financial success of that place, a partnership takes a lot of work. And I think that he and Randy were excellent for each other because they were so different, but he was a financial. But we had a DJ out on the patio, and it was shoulder to shoulder out there. And I mean, that was, probably, I don't know, 1,500 square feet. It was a big spot, and it was packed out there, people spilling drinks on each other. And for whatever reason, I still remember this day, the DJ stops playing like the cool lounge, or, the dance type stuff. And he puts on Don't Stop Believin' by Journey. And there are 400 people drunk out on the patio that all start singing. And people from Main Street, which is a half a block over, start walking over trying to get through the gates, and it's packed. They're like, what's going on here? And security came up to me. They're like, we need to settle this down because we're going to get the police here. And so I'd like, take the journey off of this. I don't remember half of those nights. I just remember they were crazy, and I couldn't wait to get off so that I could join the party. But I think, the best day of work, I think, was when I sat down with you. I think probably because this was the end after we'd spent months together going over everything. I felt like I knew everything. And you're like, all right. And you gave me a key, and you're like, this place is yours now, go. And that was really cool to me. And I really appreciate everything that you did for me there. And I think that it was, probably one of my better days. It's one, they all start to run together after a while because it's just, one day after the other, but there's some special things. And that was a big day in my life. So that was really cool. So they wheel out this guy who had passed away, unfortunately. And people were like, well, I hope he's going to be okay. I said, I'm sure he'll be fine. But they didn't know that they just had a dead body roll past their dinner. I don't know if it was Mother's Day, but remember there was like that by the lobster tank behind there where we cut the bread, the host cut the bread and stuff like that. We had an espresso machine. That's where that floor sink drained. And it was a Friday night. I know that because we were packed. We had a 2-hour wait. We're giving away calamari and stuff. And that thing started backing up, and it started to stink. It was the sewer lines, right? The gray water lines. And it stunk just like, that was gross.
We're like, what?
It wasn't like a puddle on the floor. This was a low point in the floor. We had about 3 inches of water, and all around there were 30 tables. And people are like, boy, that's kind of a funky smell. I think I was on the phone with you. You might've been in Santa Barbara. I'm like, there's something really wrong here. And I've plunged it. I've done everything. And you're like, well, just try to keep the doors open if you can. I get off the phone. I'm like, screw that guy. I'm like, no way. I'm like, we're going to get shut down immediately.
But that was part of our sales thing. Remember, we never wanted to be close. We wanted to just keep beating sales and beating sales.
Yeah. It got addicting, right?
Yeah, it was addicting.
Like, okay, we did 24,000 today. Let's do 24 tomorrow. But the next day I came back to work, and it hadn't gone anywhere. There was still just dirty water everywhere. I had to call a plumber, and the plumber came out. They're like, we need to call the city. I'm like, don't you dare call the city. We're in the middle of we're getting ready for dinner service on a Saturday night. So I sent them away. And then on Sunday, the city shows up, and we had clogged the outside main drains with whatever. I think it was just like grease, stuff like that or something, because we didn't have a proper grease trap at the time. We got that fixed at the tune of a lot of money. But we basically got through about a $50,000 weekend without shutting it down, with piles of dirty water floating in the middle of our restaurant. My last night serving before I became a manager there, it was my last table, and we had two little stairs that went up to a top level of tables. And I had a gentleman with 3 other people who had a white hoodie on, and he was a director, I found out. I had 4 glasses of red wine on a tray, and I tripped over that stair. And his back was to me, and 4 glasses of red wine poured over his shoulders, all over his brand new white hoodie that I found out that he got someplace in Beverly Hills, and it was $400 and we had to pay for it. And I apologize profusely. He was actually quite funny, which was nice. I don't remember his name, but he was some director in Hollywood. And I offered to pay for his dry cleaning, and everybody at the table just started laughing. They were like, this thing is destroyed, man. So what I always tell my servers now, whenever they break a glass or drop a dish or something like that, I said, hey, when I was a server, I dropped an entire bottle of wine over a guy's white, sweatshirt. So if you're not very good at serving, you can always get into management. Was the risk taker in that, and standing at the bar and having his Stella and his Maker's Mark, about once a month he would come in and people were just, you always talk about people who are just magnetic when they walk in a door. People wanted to be around that guy, for whatever reason. He was a fun guy and he knew how to work a crowd. He would have a great career in politics. The biggest thing that I ever achieved there, the thing that I'm most proud of, were the relationships that I built there. I'm still friends with dozens and dozens of people that I worked there with. We had a very low attrition rate, and I think that is something that's attributable to great management and good teamwork. People never left that place when they got there unless they moved. But it was very rare for people to move on because it was a good place to work. And there's a lot of restaurants where you can go and make a lot of money, but there's very few restaurants where you like to go to work. And this was one of those places. And, I think there's 5 couples who are married now still that I hired, and they met, fell in love. There's kids all over the country because of that place. It was just a good, solid place to work. As crazy as it was, we had a good group of people who worked hard and played hard. I still get messages from people. I'm still in contact with a lot of people, in Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, who we all work there together with. And I still have people, will contact me on so-and-so, say, hey, I remember when you worked at Enterprise Fish Company, man, that was a long time ago. And it really was a long time ago. But people remember that era, I think. I think we were at the top of our game, those early 2000s there. So, I'm proud of what we accomplished there. We did a lot of great things besides the success financially of it. There was a lot of success emotionally from it too.